Nice launch trajectory and countdown. Pad is clear.
10, 9, 8.
Launch auto sequence has started.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go for launch.
Vehicle is supersonic. Stage separation confirmed. Dragon, separation confirmed. Stage 1 is transonic. Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Hello everyone, it is Thursday, May 2nd, and you're looking at a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket, awaiting its 11:36 a.m. Pacific launch from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. My name is Ronnie Foreman, and I'm a commercial sales manager here at SpaceX, and I'm joining you now from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Welcome to our live launch coverage of the Maxar 1 mission. Today's launch marks SpaceX's 44th mission of 2024, the 328th overall Falcon 9 mission to date, and the third 20th flight of a first-stage booster. Today's mission is on behalf of Maxar Intelligence, a geospatial intelligence company that delivers geospatial information for consumer navigation, mission planning, disaster response, defense intelligence, and more. Today's Maxar 1 mission will deliver the first 2 of 6 WorldView Legion satellites to extend the quality and capability of Maxar's constellation. We'll have more to share about today's payloads later on in the webcast. It's also worth mentioning that payload deployment today will happen in between ground station coverage, which means we won't have real-time video to share with you. So we will be ending the webcast following stage 1 landing and confirmation of good orbital insertion. We'll then confirm successful payload deployment on X when we regain coverage. Now at just about T-minus 8 minutes and 40 seconds, let's learn a little bit more about the Falcon 9 supporting today's mission. Falcon 9 is a 2-stage rocket that is designed and manufactured by SpaceX for the reliable and safe transport of people and payloads into Earth orbit and beyond. It is the most flown U.S. launch vehicle ever. It is also the first and currently the only orbital-class rocket capable of reflight. The entire vehicle stands 229 feet tall, or about the height of a 21-story building. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage, also referred to as the booster. Not only is the first stage the largest part of the rocket, but it's also the portion of the rocket that we attempt to land for future reuse. Reusability is a critical part of our goal of making life multiplanetary. Every mission provides valuable information on repeated launch, and reusability also allows us to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket. That in turn drives down the cost of access to space. Right now, we're working on qualifying our fleet of Falcon boosters and fairings to support 40 missions each. After liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage accelerates through the Earth's atmosphere and into space using 9 Merlin M1D engines, which you have a great view of right there on your screen, eventually separating from the rest of the rocket and returning to Earth to be reused. Stage 2 will then continue. The booster will be returning to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base.
Engine chill has started.
There's confirmation that engine chill has started on board Falcon. And to date, we have landed a Falcon booster 301 times. Now turning our attention back to Falcon 9 on the pad today, above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine that ignites after the first stage separates. This is what will carry the WorldView Legion satellites into orbit. And located above the second stage is the payload fairing, which is the large barrel structure at the top of the rocket. At 17 feet in diameter, the carbon composite fairing protects the satellites on their way to orbit. Those fairing halves are then jettisoned approximately 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves supporting today's mission are both flight proven, with one half flying for its 16th time and the other flying for its 13th. After separation from the second stage, both fairing halves will return to Earth and be recovered by our teams. For more on today's payloads, let's take a look at this short video from Maxar. Now at T-minus 4 minutes and 45 seconds, Falcon 9 is tracking no issues and the payload is healthy. Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since T-minus 35 minutes and should finish loading at about T-minus 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes from now. The range is ready to support and weather is looking good for our mission this morning, but if for some reason we do not launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at the same time. Next up, the transporter erector, or the TE, will retract away from Falcon. That's the large truss structure that you see next to the rocket on your screen. Hopefully, we'll get a view here through those clouds of oxygen venting from around the vehicle to see those clamp arms open up around the base of stage 2.
Strongback retract in progress.
There's confirmation that the strongback is pulling away from Falcon 9. So right now we're just retracting slightly, but at T-minus 0, ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE even further away from Falcon 9 as it lifts off. The first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, but the structure is hinged to allow that retraction we just saw. You also heard it referred to as the strongback from the launch team, and it does a lot of heavy lifting in the lead up to launch. We use the TE both to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it to its vertical launch position. Then the TE is also what we use to route the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and payload. That is until Falcon 9 switches to internal power and clears the pad. Now at this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Right on time there. We've got the call out that stage 1 LOX load is complete. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll expect to hear that second stage call out in about 45 seconds. Now again, those white clouds you see around the vehicle is just chilled gas from above the liquid oxygen tank that we vent overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. When that vented oxygen comes out into the California air, it condenses into clouds. At T-minus 60 seconds, we should hear the call out that Falcon 9 has entered startup mode. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. Then, just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we light the M1D engines for liftoff. With just about 2 minutes to go, the 2 WorldView Legion satellites continue to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket, and weather is still looking green. The range is also ready to support...
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
There's that call out that stage 2 LOX load has also been completed, and the range is standing by to support our T0 time of 11:36 a.m. Pacific.
Ground gas closeouts.
With that, we are stepping into the final minutes of terminal count.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's confirmation that Falcon 9 is on internal power and that Stage 1 and Stage 2 have begun pressurizing for launch.
LD is go for launch.
There you heard our launch director give the final go for launch. So at T-minus 38 seconds, all systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with the Worldview Legion satellites on board.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. And the liftoff is Falcon 9, so SpaceX, go Worldview Legion. Vehicles touching ground range. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
At T plus 35 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 4 East, carrying the Worldview Legion satellites. In just a few seconds, we'll throttle the engines.
Telemetry nominal.
There's confirmation that engine telemetry is nominal. We are preparing to throttle the engines down in preparation for max Q, or the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. And with that call out, we know that Falcon 9 is moving faster than the speed of sound. During ascent, we tilt the engines. There's the call out for max Q. Now, the technical term for that engine tilt is called gimbaling. That turns the rocket horizontally in what we call a gravity turn. The vehicle is still going up, but now we're also heading horizontally away from the launch pad. The rocket typically needs to go about 17,500 miles per hour in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and reach orbit. You can keep an eye on that Stage 1 telemetry in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Now we have 5 events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear all of these called out by Mission Control, starting with MECO, then stage separation, SES-1, first stage boost back burn, and fairing separation. During MECO, we'll shut down all 9 M1D engines on the first stage. Stage separation is when the first and second stages of Falcon separate from one another. And second engine start 1 is when we will light the MVAC engine on board the second stage for the first time. Shortly after that, we should also see those 2 fairing halves jettisoned.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
Fairing separation confirmed.
So hopefully there you heard and saw those 5 events happening back to back, which again were MECO, stage separation, SES-1, first stage boost back burn begin, and fairing separation. Of course, we will be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves again today once they fall back to Earth with our recovery vessel, Go Beyond.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
There's confirmation that the first stage has ended its boost back burn. Really great views on your screen right now, too. We are just about T plus 3.5 minutes into today's mission, and just about 3 minutes from now, you should see on your screen the first stage's entry burn begin. Now, to start the entry burn, we will relight 3 of the M1D engines, starting with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly after by the E1 and E5 engines. This is similar to pumping the brakes to slow down, and the vehicle will pass back.
Nominal trajectories.
Confirmation there, we're on a nominal trajectory. Now, we need to slow down to reduce re-entry forces, which then helps us to recover and reuse the first stage. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but we're still moving really fast. This causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also known as the rocket's plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle surface. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, the soot builds up a little more on the outside of the rocket. Oftentimes, prior to launch, you can see the soot from prior flights on the first stage. Continuing to get really beautiful views from up in space. And of course, you can continue to track both the Stage 1 and Stage 2 telemetry in the bottom corners of your screen. On the left-hand side of the screen, you've got views of our grid fins with the Earth in the background. And on the right-hand side, you see our MVAC engine burning on board the second stage. On board the second stage are Maxar's first of 2 Worldview Legion satellites. Those satellites will replenish a portion of Maxar's existing constellation to expand capacity. Again, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you can track that Stage 1 telemetry as it continues to decrease its altitude on its way back to Earth. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can watch Stage 2's ascent to orbit. The grid fins that you can see on your screen right now are the primary mechanical mechanism by which we steer the first stage on its re-entry. We're expecting entry burn to begin in just about 15 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's confirmation of entry burn startup. Great view of that on your screen as well. Reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, which enables more investments in critical scientific research.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
With confirmation of entry burn shutdown, the Falcon 9 first stage supporting today's mission has now performed that entry burn 20 times. The Merlins on the first stage are optimized for sea level. These achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and descent. At liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage, there's confirmation that both the first and second stage are still on nominal trajectories.
Stage 1 transonic.
Confirmation there that Stage 1 is transonic.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 FDS has safed.
Right now, we're standing by for landing of Falcon back on landing zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Confirmation there of the 20th launch and landing for this first stage. This is the third booster to complete 20 flights. And this landing marks SpaceX's 302nd recovery of an orbital class rocket, including. Meanwhile, up in space, we're continuing to get beautiful views from our second stage. Again, today's 2 WorldView Legion satellites will replace a portion of Maxar's existing constellation, joining over 95 Maxar-built satellites already in orbit. Maxar combines frequent monitoring over key areas of change with scalable analytics to deliver near real-time information to their customers. The WorldView Legion satellites on board Stage 2 today are the beginning of a new generation of satellite made to image the Earth more frequently and at higher resolution than ever before. WorldView Legion will support multiple kinds of data collection, allowing one platform to support both monitoring and mapping missions. Now we are standing by for confirmation of second engine cutoff 1, expected in just about 10 seconds.
MVAC shutdown.
There's confirmation of MVAC shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And confirmation of good orbit insertion. While we are just a few minutes away from payload deployment, it's going to happen between ground station coverage. So confirmation will come on X when we regain coverage later on in the mission. All of us here at SpaceX want to thank our customer Maxar for entrusting us with today's launch. And of course, we'd also like to thank the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. This will conclude our webcast coverage of SpaceX's 44th launch of 2024 and 339th overall mission to date. If you're interested in even more launch coverage, be sure to check spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.